Congratulations on signing up for Defensive Pistol class. One of the #1 questions that we receive is what kind of gear should I bring to Defensive Pistol? You don't really need much. So I've got laid out on the table some of the items that you might want to consider if you're coming to a Defensive Pistol class. Before I go through these items, the most important thing I can tell you is read your email, because some curriculums do change just a little bit. Sometimes it's site specific, sometimes it's based upon the hours. So definitely you're going to want to read your email and make sure you bring all those items on the list. In front of you here we've got a defensive pistol, right? That's the name of the class, Defensive Pistol. You want to bring a defensive pistol. I recommend leaving the competition pistols at home. You want to get some trigger time with the gun that you're going to be using to save your life. Bring your concealed carry pistol. Bring your home defense pistol. You know, if you bring your competition pistol, that's fine. We've had students do that before. We're going to give you trigger time, but it's better if you get your trigger time with your defensive pistol. Of course, we have our eyes and our ears, and for our ear protection, I do recommend some kind of electronic hearing protection. This is a safety feature that allows you to hear the instructor, understand everything, the orders that we're giving, and you don't have to guess as to what we're saying. You're always going to hear. So some kind of amplified hearing protection is great if you have it. If you don't have it, bring what you have. Of course, eye protection should go without saying. Even if you wear glasses, you might want to consider getting some over-the-glass type eye protection. This way, if there's any sort of splashback or anything like that, you're not scratching or damaging your eyeglasses in any way. Of course, you're going to want to bring a holster. This happens to be an inside the waistband holster. I'm going to tell you what also, especially on those 8-hour classes, you might want to bring an outside the waistband holster too. You know, coming out of holster once or twice on an inside the waistband is not that big of a deal. But after you've been doing it for a whole day, it starts to rub a little bit. That's when the outside the waistband comes in handy. So bring both. And you're going to want at least 2 magazines. I recommend 4. Especially if they're small capacity like 8 or 10 rounds. You're going to want to bring more. You're going to be reloading and sitting out while you're reloading your magazines. So definitely minimum 2. I recommend bringing 4. And then your ammunition, you want to bring some just standard full metal jacket type ammunition. We want at least 200 rounds per phase. A phase is 4 hours. I recommend bring 250 rounds per phase. If it's an 8-hour day, you're going to want to bring 500 rounds. And let's talk about 1 is none, 2 is 1, 3 is even better. Bring a backup pistol if you have one. I have had students whose equipment has failed with them as they're practicing with it. And that's probably the second most important thing you're going to learn in the defensive pistol class. You're going to get the opportunity to prove your gear. What I mean is, you know, people make these decisions about their gear and what they think might work for them. The holster maybe was a recommendation from a friend. Maybe the gun was a recommendation from the guy at the gun store. Maybe it's not the best. Maybe it fails. We have had people whose firearms have failed on them during class. So it's a good idea to bring a backup pistol if you have one. Also, I would say, now you don't need it, but I highly, highly recommend a magazine pouch to hold your spare magazines. Otherwise, you're going to have them loose in your pocket, and you're going to learn real quick why that's not ideal. We're going to be doing a lot of reload repetitions throughout the days. You can imagine shooting 400 rounds of ammunition. If your magazine holds 20 rounds, you do the math. So we're going to be doing a lot of reload repetitions, and it's nice to have the magazines stored and stowed away, consistent location, consistent direction, so that your reload is a consistent action and you're building muscle memory. So that's the bare minimum if you're coming to Defensive Pistol 1. And let's talk about a few items that you might need if you're coming to Defensive Pistol 2. Okay, so if you're coming to Defensive Pistol 2, again, reminder, read the email. You're going to want to bring everything that we just discussed about the Defensive Pistol 1, and you might want to consider something like knee pads. You can see that these knee pads are well used. I've got pretty bad knees, and if you're kneeling down on a piece of brass on a range, or you're kneeling down on a rock or something like that on an outdoor range, or if you have bad knees like me, it definitely helps while we're doing the kneeling and the laying shooting positions, getting up and whatnot. it definitely helps. In a high stress situation, you're not going to feel that, but you know, if we do a few repetitions and you're kneeling on a rock, you're going to feel that immediately on the range. So just something to consider. I do recommend bringing some kind of knee pad, and you don't have to go fancy. A $10 knee pad from Home Depot is probably going to be good enough. Also, while we're doing the laying positions, you want to maybe consider bringing some kind of shooting mat, or maybe even a beach towel or something like that. On an outdoor range, if it's dry and dusty, it's not that big of a deal. You can wipe the dust off. On an indoor range, it's going to be really dusty with lead. Even if they've cleaned the range, which we usually request when we're doing Defensive Pistol 2, it still can be dusty. You don't want to be laying on lead dust. On an outdoor range, if it's muddy or if it's been raining and wet, you don't want to lay down on the ground when it's raining and wet. So as we're doing the groundwork, again, you might really want to consider some kind of mat or towel or something like that. Of course, you're going to want to bring water. It doesn't matter if that's Defensive Pistol 1, 2, or 3. You definitely want to bring some kind of hydration. Stay away from too much coffee. If you're like me, you're a coffee junkie. But try to limit the amount of coffee that you drink before class, because that does have an effect. Jitters can have an effect on our marksmanship. If it's an outdoor class, I want you to think about the weather. Is it going to rain? We don't stop training if it's raining. There are very few classes that we've ever canceled due to weather. So, you know, you might want to bring a rain jacket. If it's early spring or fall or something like that, you may want to bring a sweater or a windbreaker or something like that. Your comfort's important. You're going to have a good time if you're comfortable, and we want you to be comfortable, so bring the things that you need. If it's an outdoor range, I want you to think about sunscreen. I want you to think about mosquito repellent. I want you to think about all those creature comforts that you might want. Remember always, 1 is none, 2 is 1, 3 is even better. I just let you know, we've got a med kit, but you might want to bring your own med kit. And in fact, in our med kit, we have a roll of toilet paper, because let's face it, not having toilet paper is a medical emergency in my book. So those are just some things to consider when we're out in a remote site, things that you might want. Sometimes we're going to provide lunch. Again, read your email. You might want to bring lunch with you. We can't always go out for lunch, especially if we're on a remote site or a remote location. So you're going to want to definitely bring your own lunch. A note about hydration, again, we will usually provide water, but it doesn't hurt to bring your own water or sports drinks or anything like that. Defensive Pistol is an athletic endeavor, so you definitely want to stay hydrated, electrolytes, all that good stuff. So again, bring your pistol, bring at least 2 magazines, preferably 4. Bring a mag pouch if you have it. Bring a holster. Bring 2 holsters is even better if you have an outside the waistband. Extra ammo doesn't hurt, because if you don't shoot it all, we can put it on the shelf and store it for the long term. Think about all the things you're going to need to be comfortable. And if you have any questions, don't stop to reach out, and we'll definitely answer those questions for you. You're going to have a hell of a good time at Defensive Pistol class. You're going to learn some amazing new abilities. You're going to become a master of your firearm. You are going to prove your gear. Does it work? Does it not work? Do you want to get something else, or are you confident that your purchase was the right purchase for you? I'll see you in class, and as always, be armed, be trained, and be alpha.